Happy GratiTuesday. You know what? On this Tuesday, I am so grateful to work with and for some of the best people at Talking Rain Beverage Company. But I've had jobs in the past that weren't so awesome. It wasn't always that way. I think most of us have experienced that toxic boss or miserable job at one point in our life or another. And in this video, I'm going to give you 3 powerful shifts to help you move from fear and frustration to clarity, possibility, and action. By the end, you're going to know how to stop fear from hijacking your brain and your energy, reframe your current situation so life starts working for you, not against you, and take one bold step to create new opportunities, even out of thin air. You ready? Let's get started. Costume change. I'm sorry, but that last thing got a little too hot. Anyway, so story time. Okay, here's the tea. I think you can all relate to some form of this. Let's go back in time to one of my toxic jobs. I remember my second day on the job. I watched as the CEO of the company came in, pulled my boss into a meeting room. They came out, my boss was hanging his head low, and the CEO looked around the room, bullpen of a bunch of people there, and announced in front of everybody, "Hey, everybody, I just want to say that we're gonna, Joe here, he's a great guy, and I'm sure he's been a great boss, but he's really not a people manager. So we're gonna have him go back to being an individual contributor, and we're gonna bring someone new in. So yeah, all right. So wish him well, and I'll introduce you to the new person soon." I was like, holy beep. Can I beep myself? I just did. You know what I'm thinking. This is how they treat their people. I knew right then I would not be there very long. And then it happened. Dun dun dun. Cue like dramatic music. Holy moly. I met the new person they hired. They're like, "Oh yeah, she's a pit bull, she's a bulldog, blah." Um, yeah, she's one that you would be very afraid of. In fact, we watched as person after person after person left. I think she turned over the whole staff in a very short period of time. And let me just give you one crystallized moment of how awkward it got. There was one time we're all sitting in a bullpen environment. I'm sitting next to a grown gentleman who, and she hired him to train him how to do this job. So he came in not knowing this business very well. She comes storming out of her office, yelling his name, "Joseph!" She said it like double, double whatever. "Joseph, you idiot!" Idiot. She called him an idiot in front of everybody. And then she stood over him and, was doing this and like, "How could you have done this? Blah, blah, blah." It was so awkward. I was like, "Yeah, hi, I'm not really talking to anybody, but I don't want this guy to know that this is painful." Yeah, I did a fake phone call because that was painful. Anywho, I had to get out of there. We all did. And I think probably like all of you, I went through that fear thing. So now let's get into the brain science of what happens when you work out of fear, because it's not good. You don't want to work out of fear. Fear makes us small, desperate, and reactive. And neuroscience backs this up. When you're in fear mode, the amygdala, which is your brain's threat detector, it hijacks everything. Focus narrows, creativity tanks, and survival mode takes over. And that's why toxic jobs, job hunts, everything feels impossible. But when you shift out of fear, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles creativity, problem solving, planning, that lights up. And suddenly you can see options, make connections, and imagine new paths. It's the difference between tunnel vision and a panoramic view. Some people call this shift moving from fear to love. It's good to choose love over fear. Anyway, in a workplace context, think of it as moving into clarity, connection, and service. And here's the thing, people feel the difference. Something in the limbic system, it's called limbic resonance, your emotional state, it's contagious. And walk in radiating desperation, and people can sense it. You've heard of the expression, "they smell your fear." Yeah, for real. Well, walk in grounded, confident, ready to serve, they sense that too. And we're back. Yeah, I know. I changed again. Here's the thing. I work full time and then I coach in the evenings and on the weekends. So I try to record where I can. And legit, a lot of my clients are going through this kind of stress right now. And so I just want to put this video out there for people. And if it helps one person, then that will make me happy. I want people to benefit from the things I learned. So let's go back to story time. I was telling you about that toxic work environment. I knew I needed to do something to calm my nervous system. I tried all sorts of things. And one thing that was a turning point for me was when I found this meditation video on YouTube. I'll pop the link below so that you can benefit from what I did. The meditation had me visualizing becoming the answer to someone else's problem. It wasn't just about positive thinking. What I didn't realize at the time, but I've since learned, is that this was tapping into neuroplasticity. Reframing my story literally started rewiring my brain. And that visualization changed my energy. I stopped thinking, help me. And I started asking, how may I help someone else? Let me be the answer to someone else's prayer. I started to think about jobs that brought me joy. And I thought of my first job. I was a volunteer at a nursing home. I was 12 years old and I loved serving the elderly. I have the gift of gab, or, at least I had a captive audience. Anyway, I enjoyed it and they seemed to enjoy me and it was just lovely. So then I started to think about what if I could combine my recruiting skills with serving the elderly? So I just wrote a letter to the CEO of a luxury senior assisted living company. They didn't have any jobs open. I can't talk today. They didn't have any jobs open, but I thought I'm going to give it a shot. I wrote him a letter. I told him about how much I loved volunteering in the nursing home. First of all, I, of course, also told him about my background. And I pitched myself. They didn't have any jobs open at the time, but he was maybe charmed by my letter. I even referenced the service award pin that I was awarded back when I was 12 years old, and I still have it. So he had the head of HR call me. We hit it off. It was really lovely. But again, they didn't have anything open. But the seed was planted and life went on. A year later, I got a call from them. They had a job open. And 2 years after that really, really awful, toxic, awful job, I was in a job that I loved, serving others, and I doubled my income. Boom! Awesome. So when things go sideways, I try to get curious. Maybe things aren't happening to me. Maybe they're happening for me. Here's my challenge for you if you're going through a rough patch. Number 1, notice where fear may be hijacking your brain and shrinking your vision. Number 2, reframe your current struggle. What if it's preparation, not punishment? Number 3, take at least one bold step. Write the email, make the call, plant the seed. Even if it doesn't sprout today, it may grow into an opportunity beyond your wildest imagination. Now, since it's GratiTuesday, I would love it if you would please drop what you're grateful for in the comments below. Tell me one thing that you're grateful for right now, and I'll see you next Tuesday for episode 2 of 7. And until then, remember, life is happening for you, and there's magic in the messy, so let's go find it together.